Hello and welcome. This is the Tiffness Fitness Podcast, a podcast where I talk to coaches, athletes, and strength enthusiasts from all backgrounds about strength, coaching, life, balance, and more. And today there is no guest. It's a Q&A episode, which I've never done for the Tiffness Fitness podcast format. I did used to have a podcast where I just talked for 30 minutes, but I haven't done it in this format. I've just done a lot of guests and chatting with guests. But it just worked out that I'm gonna do a Q&A episode. I fielded the questions from my Instagram stories a couple of different times. Um, and we're just gonna sort of run through them and hopefully that's helpful. This is a little weird not having a person to talk to for this one. Uh, and also weird because I have to stare at my own face for the entirety of this episode, which I don't love. It's just weird looking at myself this much. Also my camera won't mirror, so it's like I'm looking at myself backwards, which is also very annoying. But we're gonna do this thing and it's gonna be a great old time. So first question, and this is a question I got both times I put this box up, and is how do you stay motivated? And I don't think that motivation is that important. I think that motivation is a great way to get started, right? Like if you get that first let's go motivation, that's what will start your first time going to the gym or that first week going to the gym. Uh, but after that, motivation's gonna is gonna go. And also motivation comes in waves and it goes away, it goes up and down, right? Uh so you shouldn't rely on motivation to get your training done. What you should rely on is routines, like systems in place so you will do your training, and discipline, and also setting yourself up with your training so that it is something that you can do and that you will do, right? So in the first part, uh, routines, systems, just having a system in place or a routine in place so you will just go do it. For me, I wake up in the morning, I have my little coffee or my energy drink, and then I get in my workout clothes. I come in here and I start warming up. Whether or not I want to, whether or not it's like a super fun workout or anything, I will just get up and start moving and do the thing. Like that, and then by the time I'm partway through my warm up or my mobility work, it's already happened, right? Like I'm already doing it. It's like, well, I guess I'll just keep going now, right? Um, Discipline comes in because there are days where you're not going to want to do it. There are regularly days I don't want to do things. I objectively am very lazy for a trainer. I want to lay around and play video games. I want to watch movies and hang out. But you gotta do your training too, right? So staying disciplined, and when your systems blow up in your face, still making it work, right? That's really important for just making yourself consistent in that. And finally, when it comes to wanting to do training, um, you should generally like your training, right? If you're going into the gym every single time, you're like, damn it, I don't want to be here. Uh, Look at what your workouts are. Look at what you're training for, and is it something that is exciting you? Is it something that's making you want to go to the gym? Um, do you have an end goal that's gonna make you do that? And if you don't, or if you are looking at your training going, I'm just doing it because I saw someone on Instagram say this is what you're supposed to do, reassess and adjust, and maybe your workouts need to be more compact. Maybe you're at the gym for 3 hours and that's why you're not wanting to go to the gym because you're just kind of meandering the gym with no plan. Or maybe it's a lot of cardio and you're tired, you're wiped out, and you need a break. So look at what your training is, or get someone else to help you look at what your training is, like a coach, and assess and adjust if needed. Because I think a lot of times people go, well, I need to work out 6 days a week, and I'm going to do an upper, lower, full split like bro splits, and then and then and then they're burned out or tired and they don't enjoy their training because it's just not what works for them. So you got to find what works for you, and that will help you stay motivated, but also fuck motivation. So find that balance in that. Um, do you take supplements? Not really. I don't really take supplements. That's a really popular question. Also, I only take protein really and creatine, which I don't know doesn't really count. I don't know how what supplements count, what don't. Outside of that, I do like a multivitamin, and then I do like a biotin one because my multivitamin doesn't have biotin in it. And I bleach my hair a lot, so I gotta I gotta do something to take care of the bathroom bleach sessions that I do. Right, so I do multivitamin, I do biotin. It's a gummy. And then I do protein. I get protein from a brand that I work with that gives me commissions that I genuinely like. I've been working with them for a year. And I only do the protein that has like juice based. Because I don't like milk based protein. There's nothing I want less than protein, like a milk-based product after I work out or before I work out. So I really like the juice-based proteins. There are ones that aren't Prozis, the brand that I work with, but I prefer the Prozis brand ones. They're pretty like light and refreshing and like taste like juice. They don't have like too much of like a proteiny flavor. Um, and then I do creatine. Mostly when I do like really heavy bent press, that's when I am like most consistent with it. Um, and then creatine is just one of those supplements that's like actually been researched. So I do like it. I don't do any of the greens or anything like that. I try to just eat a lot of those. But also most of those green products like EG1 or a super or whatever, they have mushrooms in their mixes, and I'm allergic to mushrooms. So they might be great. That's not something that I can I can have because I'm allergic and they wouldn't be great for me. So supplement wise, I think supplements are a little bit overdone uh in training. People get really really into supplements because it feels like a quick way to like make big changes, and it's just not outside of protein. Like I said, protein I think is great because it's sometimes hard to get all the protein in that you want for a day, and that's a nice way to add a little bit of protein into your day with like basically zero effort. uh how long are your workouts? And how long, I'm going to add how long are your clients' workouts. So my workouts vary pretty wildly. So if I'm running less than 45 minutes, I don't really run more than 4 or 5 miles. I don't think I've run more than 4 miles since being here. I tend to stick around the 3 to 3.5 range. That's very comfortable for me. My bent press workouts are generally longer. Those push the one workout I have in the week, when I'm doing bent pressing, tends to be around 90 minutes, sometimes 2 hours if I'm being really excessive with my rest times. But my like general workouts are about 45 minutes. I don't want to spend my whole entire day in here. I do spend a lot of time in here coaching and typing and just using my desk because this is also my office. But like I don't want to spend a whole lot of time here training, and I will. But I tend to just set a timer on my phone and be like, let's do this thing. So I keep my workouts around 45 minutes to an hour most days because I just don't want to spend my entire day working out. Uh, there's a point where it doesn't like benefit you that much. Additionally, most of my workouts, like for sport, we're trying to like it's more cardio based anyways. So the rest periods don't need to be overly long because then we're kind of like losing the cardio side of it. But the bent press workouts do tend to be a little bit longer because, especially once we get towards the end of a cycle where I'm lifting pretty heavy, the rest periods take a long time. So I have to rest a little while longer than I would like to, or I just have to rest a long time. So I have to, it just makes the workout take longer. But now it's even easier because I have a barbell here. So whenever I do get back to barbell training, which will be very soon because I'm competing this weekend, well, it would have been before this episode comes out, but I'll get back into bent press training soon. But generally, about 45 minutes. My client workouts or people that I program for, it varies also. Some of my clients are working on a lot of heavy work, so those workouts are going to be a little bit longer because they have to do longer rest periods. Some clients who uh, really just want to get some sort of movement in and get the heart pumping or get some weights up very quickly. So those workouts can be as short as 30 minutes. So it really depends on the person and their goals and and their time and their space and the equipment that they have, to what their workout length is. That's part of the joy of having a trainer as well, is you just go, okay, I have 45 minutes on these days, make it work. And you go, okay. And I do. um, how do you pick which exercises to do? And this depends on what I'm training for. So at the moment, I've been doing a lot of snatch and kettlebell sport training. So a lot of my exercises are based around whatever my weaknesses are in snatch. So that's grip for me. My grip is uh, not as strong as it has been in the past. Um, so I'm doing a lot of things that would benefit my grip. So a lot of farmer's carries, low swings, um, marches, survival snatches, just things that are going to test my grip and force my grip to work a little bit harder, right? Uh, when we're doing bent press training, I tend to do a lot more wrist strengthening exercises because my wrist, when I'm holding the barbell, this is the part that like doesn't want to hold the weight, and that makes it harder. Additionally, I do a lot more like lateral type work because we're needing to build all of my lateral muscles so I can help push the weight into my overhead because it's lateral movement. So it's just going to depend on what I'm working on and uh, what my weaknesses are at that point. Same thing when I'm coaching people. You go, okay, what are we working towards, and what are our weaknesses, and do we have anything that is like an injury, right? So like if we can't do like a lot of strict pressing overhead because we have trap or shoulder issues, how do we work around that so we still get a pressing motion? um we can do like a bridge press, or we can do a bench press, um things like that, or a landmine press even, because it's not like a directly overhead. So there's ways to work around that, and knowing different variations of exercises and different variations with training tools is really helpful in that as well, because you could just go, okay, well, we can't do this. What do you have? Let's adjust and make it work that way. How did you get into running with your dog, and how did you train your dog to run? My dog is a cattle dog, so she will run always. I did not have to force her to run. She will just run. That's what she wants to do all of the time, even when we're just doing walks. So that was pretty easy. Endurance wise, we do have to like build her up cardio wise because she just wants to sprint and stop, sprint and stop. But one of the reasons we got the dog was so I'd have someone to run with. Um, I when we lived in El Cajon, I had trained for and did a half marathon. And towards the end of that training cycle, there was just like a couple of men who just kept appearing on my runs, and I was like, oh, cool. I guess I'm not um, running by myself anymore. Like there's just like they just kept being in places kind of in like it was just like in a situation where I didn't like to be by myself running any longer. So That combined with other things, we got the dog. And you can't run a dog like super young. So I sort of like was chatting with my vet, being like, "Hey, when can we run her?" And so we started off with just like sprinting between telephone poles and stuff like that. And eventually we built to like actual runs for 1 mile and 2 miles and 3 miles, and now we run 3-ish miles a couple times a week usually. It tends to be interval style running because she still has to pee, do whatever dogs do. So you always have to be cognizant of that. That the dog is it's a run for you, but also the dog doesn't know that it's a run for you. So you have to be patient, which is not always easy. um, and if it's weather where it might be sketchy, make sure you're prepared for that. We have shoes. If it's hot, I wear my little camelback. And bring water with me, uh, or I pick routes specifically where there's water fountains so she can drink out of a water fountain. Though I don't know that there's any water fountains here. I haven't found any actually. Now that I'm thinking about it, so whenever it gets hot, I'll probably just have to run with my Camelback again. Though there's a lake that she likes to drink, which is not super ideal because lakes have germs. But yeah, running with a dog was never it's never like a question because she's born to run, and she needs the energy output. So even on days when I don't want to run and I'm like it's a running day, kind of got to run at least a little bit. Another way to stay motivated is to get a tiny little dictator in your house that will ruin your day if you don't exercise hard enough. Yeah. So let's see. Uh, Here's a question from one of my friends. It says, when are you breaking the bench press record and why is it before 2025? And that's very nice. I'm hoping to break the record in the next couple of years, but I think that it's actually like not a terrible timeline. We'll have to shift and see where I'm at because I've not been doing like heavy bench press training basically all this year at this point. Like I did like a couple of 42 and I was doing some training and then I shifted into sport training. So that does like make it a little bit tricky to know where I'm at physically for the bench press because sport training and bench press training is a pretty wildly different training style. But 2025 feels like or before 2025. I got 6 months. I think in 2025 feels like a feasible timeline. Um, I'm hoping to PR in the next, 3 or 4 months, as long as I can, like, really get on it and get back into training now that I have a bar at home, I have a bunch of plates. I finally got the little tiny plates, so I should be able to, like, move up, like, incrementally and safely, so that's great. Uh, so yeah, that feels like a not unreasonable 2025 before feels unreasonable. In 2025 feels more reasonable. Um, what does the bent press work and what are the benefits? The bent press is a full body strength movement. Um, it's uh, it's also the most effective way to get a very heavy weight over your head with one hand. That's sort of the whole point of it, and it's also like it was a show lift back in like old time days, like Arthur Saxon. They would do it like in a performance and be like, we show you, ta-da. So that the point of it is to put a stupid heavy weight over your head, which I love to do. And it works everything. So we're gonna work our hamstrings, we're gonna work our obliques, your lats, your rotator cuff, triceps, wrist, hand. Um, yeah, just it's a full body lift. You're really using all your muscles because you're packing down into your lats, you're driving up, stabilizing all through your whole arm and shoulder. if you're overhead position. So full body, but primarily hamstrings, glutes, obliques, lats, rotator cuff. Um, and the benefits are putting a stupid heavy weight over your head, which we love to do, right? Mm. But also, it's a good way to work mobility, or like it's a good show of mobility. You're not going to get more mobile doing the bent press. You have to do mobility work to get good at bent press, but it's a good show of what you can do. Um, it's a good way to like figure out where your stability and strength is. And it's just cool. Like I like like some exercises are just fun and cool to do. And I think that's fine. Um, I'm not like getting a whole lot of strength gains out of flipping a kettlebell, but I love doing it and it's cool. So that's a benefit for me. Um, but it's going to strengthen all of those muscles as well, which is great. And if you're doing like a strong first, I believe, like they're level 2, I think that they do a bent press in one of their things. I don't do strong first though, because I just don't do strong first. They're really expensive and I'm very poor. How often to train bent press, and should it be waived? And waived being like, should you waive the training cycle? Uh That depends. I know I've said that like a million times on this, but it depends on if why are you training the bent press? Are you training it like as like a lift that you want to be good at? Because when I'm training it like as the lift that I'm working on, I was doing it 3 times a week. But if I'm just doing bent press to like have it incorporated in my training, or if it's just like in my flows or whatever, much less often. um, but I've done training programs where it's 2 days a week, or 3 days. Actually, I think I had one that was 1 day a week even. So you just have to figure out why are you doing the bent press? Is it like a accessory to being better at Turkish get up, or is it uh, you're needing to build your lats for something else? Um, and then you can figure out how often you want to train it. Are you training it just as that lift? Like when I do bent press workouts, that's what I'm doing the whole workout, and then I do accessory work, or is it part of your accessories? So there's that. Should it be waived? The fun thing about bent press, like programming a bent press, is it's there's not like a lot of literature out there on like how do you train bent press to be good at bent press. So uh it's for me, it does get waived, but that's more of a natural occurrence as I train other things, as life happens, as I tweak something and I have to like, lower the intensity. So yeah, I think waiving it is probably beneficial. But I train bent press in a way where it just sort of naturally kind of goes up and down with the frequency, intensity, and occurrence um, of how I do it. So, uh, yeah. So I've done a few different cycles, a few different ways of doing it. I've done like a powerlifting program, which honestly just kicked my ass because powerlifting programs are like adapted it to bent pressing. Um, but the thing with a powerlifting program is you're doing everything with 2 hands, like it's a bench press, it's a deadlift, it's a squat, right? So you only have to do, if it says 5 reps, you're doing 5 reps. With the bent press, on the other hand, you do 5 reps and then you have to be like, oh God, now I have to do it on my other side. Uh, and that is hard. So that's a thing that you have to take into account. I've done a conjugate style training where you do like different variations. Yeah, that's conjugate style. So it's with a winning style warm up. And conjugate, you do a max effort day at different variations. That's why I started doing like dumbbells and kneeling and seated bent presses, and a lot more bottoms up bent presses. So you're trying to find those weak points. And then you do uh, it's a bunch of reps. So you're doing a high reps of like weak things. So I did like a lot of rows, some deadlifts or like lighter deadlifts, and like core work, like a lot of oblique side plank type core work. And then it's a dynamic effort. And that was, I think, generally done with like chains. If you're doing like squats or deads, chains are probably the most normal one. But I just did banded bent presses. It's a little bit different output. You feel out different points where a different type of resistance with the weight. And the resistance changes as you push the bar farther away as well. So it's interesting. It's hard to say like whether or not which one of these has like benefited me the most. I really think I enjoyed the like just straight powerlifting one as much as it like really kicked my ass sometimes. The conjugate one was super beneficial in the fact that I didn't have all the equipment. So it was really nice because you're doing a bunch of variations of things. So on days where I didn't have access to going to the gym or going to getting my hands on a bar, I could do a bottoms up or kneeling variation with a kettlebell, and I could still do do some work, which was nice. But what I really want to do is just bent press in a way that's going to challenge me again. So I haven't programmed myself out because I've been um, doing kettlebell sport. So after this competition, I'll take a week and sort of figure out what's next and build out a program from there. Um, but yeah, if you how often you want to train it and should it be waived, train it as often as as is beneficial for you. I wouldn't train it like a whole lot, like more than 3 days. And even when I was doing 3 days of like specific bench press work, I wasn't doing all bench pressing during that, right? And I think most training should be waived in one way or another, because if you don't waive it, your body is probably going to force you to at some point, right? Um, and then my other question from my friend, I think, was just least favorite band and why is it Fall Out Boy, which is blasphemy, as we all know, because Fall Out Boy is my favorite band. They've been my number one band every year on Spotify Wrapped, with the exception of the year that Inside came out from Bo Burnham, and he snuck in there and got the number one spot, which I think is quite telling of my mental state when that special came out. But those are all the questions I got, and honestly, that's cool with me. I'm hoping that this is interesting to someone. You can always leave me questions. I'll leave like the Spotify will let you add questions and stuff, so you can add more questions in there, and I'll answer them with guests or on my own in the closers, or make another episode like this if this was fun for people. So that is this week's episode. Real soon we'll be back with some great guests. I'm recording a couple more episodes this week, so I'm really excited, and I will see you next time. Bye.